morning. It's July the 15th, 2015. Welcome to Real Estate Tips. I'm Wayne Russell, instructor, broker associate with RE/MAX Southwest, Sugar Land, Texas. Most of the information we discuss comes from realtors, newspaper articles, magazines, and emails from different sources. The material provided here is for information purposes only and is not intended and should not be considered as legal advice for your particular matter. I like to go over sometimes the the new, like right in here at Fort Bend Community Extra, just for information only. In the business page, a gallery opens largest showroom in Fort Bend County. The 165,000 square foot gallery furniture at 7227 West Grand Parkway South opened July the 1st and features more than furniture. The 4.5-story living screen wall is 48 feet high, 42 feet long, and features 12,000 plants. Wow, that's a lot of water in here.
12,000 plants?
Yeah. The 20,000 square foot atrium features monkeys and birds. Zebra sharks are among the occupants of a 30,000-gallon saltwater aquarium. Jim McAvell and his wife Linda have donated a section of the store to residents of the Brookwood community, a nonprofit residential facility and vocational program for adults with disabilities. Another feature is brick and mortar kitchen, a full-service restaurant at the showroom, which is the largest of stores of these three sites. Also, on the Fort Bend Community Extra, they talked about in Rosenberg they're going to widen Bryan and Spacek roads. And Rosenberg City Council approved spending up to $978,565 on engineering work to prepare for widening Bryan and Spacek roads. The project will consist of widening existing 2-lane undivided roadways to a 4-lane curb and gutter boulevard on Bryan Road from 2218, approximately 760 feet east of Spacek Road, and Spacek Road from Bryan Road to the northern boundary of Oaks of Rosenberg subdivision. Reason why I bring this information to you, in case, let's just say you're selling some lots or getting in, say, in the commercial end of real estate, it's always good to know what major thoroughfares are going to be widened, so that when you go out and talk to someone and say, hey, did you know about they're going to widen this freeway or highway or major thoroughfare? And you say, no, I've never heard of it, and so they think that, well, you're not informed. So I just wanted to give you this information. There's if you will go to the maps, you'll notice that the Bryan and Spacek roads are just south of 59 between 762 and 2218. Also, one more thing, Yellen sees Fed raising rates in 15. You know, everybody talks about the low interest rates. Back in the 80s, it was, I don't know, 15%. But anyway, Janet Yellen, the Federal Reserve Chairman, said on Friday that she's expected the Fed to raise the benchmark interest rate this year as the domestic economy continued to gain strength. Okay, on my outline, I'm going to talk about terminating the 1 to 4 family residential contract and getting the earnest money back for the buyer. There's a lot of get-out clauses for the buyer in the contract, but I'll discuss one, and we won't discuss all the what-ifs, but we'll discuss some of the ways that you can get the earnest money back from for the buyer. Third-party financing addendum, I think it's important you understand the third-party financing addendum. And agent requires a representation agreement before entering property in MLS. Don't enter, your lot or block or a house in MLS without a listing agreement. Is there a way to withdraw an offer for a client? In other words, someone makes an offer on a house and they decide, I don't want that. I'm going to withdraw the offer, and I'm going to go over that in just a second. And if you have a rent house and you move out of your homestead, and you're buying a new construction or something, and you want to rent out your existing home, that you need to arrange landlord insurance before renting out your house. Second phase, how to secure your fee from FSBO and flood-prone areas and release of lien. I think it's important to, if you do pay off your house, and once you get your release of lien, make sure it's recorded at the courthouse where the house is located. A lot of sometimes the mortgage companies will do as a favor to record your release of lien, but make sure that the documentation is on the release to make sure it's recorded, and not just put in your house file, because if you don't find that, if the release of lien is not recorded and they start searching the title on your house, it'll still show the lien. So anyway, and then the last thing is code of ethics. Okay, this is one of the articles in the newspaper. I signed a contract to purchase a home. I couldn't qualify for my financing and timely sent a termination notice to the seller and the title company to release the earnest money to me. The seller would not sign the release saying, I didn't diligently pursue my loan as required in the financial addendum. He wants me to forfeit my earnest money. The title company won't release it to me. They must be siding with the seller. What do I do now? No, they're not siding with the seller. The title company has very stringent requirements involving the release of earnest money. If it disperses it incorrectly, it has a liability for that. If there's a dispute over the earnest money, it can tender it into the register of the court and let the parties fight over it. It has no interest in being in the fight. Take in your loan rejection or loan denial, but loan rejection, and confirm that it was delivered timely, pursuant, which means accordance with, to the terms of the contract. It should follow those instructions in the contract, but sometimes it fears the involvement of litigation. You probably can resolve this matter by going to the justice of the peace court, and you don't need a lawyer. And sometimes earnest money ends up in the state if y'all keep fighting over it. So it's best to go ahead and if someone buys a house and it's under contract, or they get it under contract, they hadn't bought it yet, to go ahead and get those releases signed, because the buyer has clouded the title, and say you want to close at XYZ title company, they won't deliver clear title until that release of earnest money is signed, because you're clouded the title for the seller, and the seller can't sell it. So try to resolve that. Okay, I want to go over some things on third-party financing so you'll be familiar with it, because the third-party financing is you have to have it and when you're involved in a note. Getting a loan. Here's what you need to know about third-party financing. Almost all of us take out a mortgage when we purchase a home. In Texas, when you make an offer that is contingent upon financing approval, to complete the purchase, you will sign a third-party financing addendum. The Texas Association of Realtors addressed a few of the components of this addendum in recent email update to realtors. This is information that's shared with members in recent update. Third-party financing condition. I'm having difficulty understanding the terms and issues involving third-party financing addendum. How does this addendum work? I'm sure my phone doesn't go off during class. Prior to adoption of the current addendum, there were considerable uncertainty as to when and how it was to be determined the buyer had satisfied the lender's financial requirements. Often the dispute concerning the lender's approval would raise many days after the time period for approval under their prior addendum had expired, and the argument would be whether approval in fact had been obtained within the days specified. In order to give all the parties some certainty about this approval process, the addendum was changed to put the burden on the borrower/buyer to provide written notice to seller within the time specified. The buyer cannot obtain necessary financing approval. Usually it's a number of days in third-party financing. This would seem to be appropriate since the buyer is in the best position to obtain the information from the lender, and after all, it's the buyer's contingency. If the buyer is not satisfied that he obtained financial approval relating to the assets, incomes, and credit history at the time provided, the buyer must give timely written notice to the effect to the seller. If the buyer gives timely notice, the contract terminates, earnest money is refunded. We're going to go over a situation where it's past those number of days in third-party financing in just a moment. The buyer does not give such notice to the seller within that time period. The contract can no longer be subject to buyer's financial approval regarding assets, income, and credit history. And I've underlined this: the addendum does not require that the buyer obtain financing within the specified time period. Rather, it provides an opt-out period for a buyer who does not believe he can obtain that approval, as was the case before the change. The lender's approval of property as satisfying the lender's underwriting requirements is separate from the buyer's personal qualifications. As a home buyer who's not a real estate professional, here's the top 5 things you need to know about the addendum. It is the buyer's responsibility to give written notice to the seller if they're unable to get that loan approved. If the buyer gives notice within the time period frame, they will be able to terminate the contract and earnest money will be refunded. The buyer does not have to have loan approval within the given time period. The home must still meet lender underwriting requirements regardless of the time frame for a financing period. Let's just say the house didn't appraise out. Well, an owner asked me, said, well, hey, how about if the house doesn't appraise for X dollars? And I go, well, you're back to negotiations. And she says, well, I was afraid you was going to say that. So if the property does not appraise with the purchase price, then the buyer has the option of proceeding with the purchase or terminating the contract, and of course getting the earnest money back. That's a quick and simple explanation of third-party financing. As with all contracts, you have specific legal questions when you should consult an attorney. If you're starting a home search, you will find there's a lot of paperwork that comes along with buying a home. If you're getting a mortgage to buy a home, then you'd want to make sure you're signing a third-party financing addendum. It's for your protection. Someone asked about, I'm kind of deviating a little bit, but someone asked about what a loan officer does to, what's involved in getting a loan, and I just wanted to go over a few things. What the loan officer, of course, there's a lot of work involved with the realtor, and the title company has to coordinate everything, and there's appraisals, there's surveys, and the hard-working realtor that should be making 10%. A different rate. But anyway, underwriting guidelines for mortgage loans, loan requirements, credit review, and qualify for a loan. This is what some of the things that I think you ought to be, so that you won't be pounding on that loan officer all the time, because they get their hands full. If you qualify for a loan to pay this house, all lending institutions have different underwriting guidelines set in place when reviewing a borrower's financial history to determine the likelihood of receiving on-time payments. The primary items reviewed are listed below. They check your salary and hourly wages, your part-time or second job, the commissions or bonuses or overtime income, retirement and Social Security, alimony, child support, notes receivables, rental income, if they got self-employment income, your educational expenses, debt and liabilities, and then they review your credit history. And so there's a lot involved with what the loan officer has to do. They always check for unpaid collections. If the buyer has negotiated an acceptable payment plan, has made time payments for 6 to 12 months, credit items usually reported in 7 days, bankruptcies, foreclosures, short sales, deed in lieu of foreclosure. Deed in lieu of foreclosure is like, let's just say you're behind on your payments of your house, and you go, well, let me just deed the property back to the mortgage company. Because it's expensive to go to foreclosure. So sometimes this happens in lieu of foreclosure. They just deed it back to the mortgage company. And the loan officer checks for bankruptcies. They see if there's a good credit, or if there's going to be a cold bar involved. And the credit scores range from 400 to 800. Credit scores below 600 may require alternative credit mortgage program. If a borrower falls behind on payment, the creditor should be contacted as quickly as possible. Lenders look at the following types of accounts: assets for down payment funds, checking and savings, gifts and grants, sales of assets, secured loans, IRA, 401k, KEO, and SEP accounts, and sweat equity, cash on hand. And let's just say, for an example, you're making $4,500 a month. They usually, round numbers, they multiply 0.30 times and gives you a monthly payment of $1,350, which includes your PITI, which is principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And they might include the PMI, your private mortgage insurance. Now, I'm going to jump back to getting your earnest money back after the X number of days in third-party financing has expired. Let's just say you put in there, say 10 days or 21 days, and this is this 22nd day, or maybe it's a couple of days prior to closing. So to get your earnest money back, you must provide a loan rejection or loan denial letter from the mortgage company. That's one. The next one is you get a notice of buyer's termination of contract, and you put the information in there and check the property does not satisfy the lender's underwriting requirements for loan under paragraph 4A1. This is the second thing you need to do. And then the third thing you need to do, of course, is prepare a release of earnest money, because this is what removes the cloud on, once this is signed by all parties, including the realtors, you need this signed, and of course you want the buyer to keep the earnest money, or get the earnest money back, after you supplied the loan denial and the notice of buyer's termination. And of course, on the first page of 1 to 4 family contract, it states in here under financing, under third-party financing. Now let me read the whole thing. Financing not used for reverse mortgage financing. The portion of sales price not payable in cash will be paid as follows. check the applicable boxes below. Third-party financing, one or more third-party financing loans in the total amount of X dollars excluding any loan funding fee or mortgage insurance premium. Property approval. If the property does not satisfy the lender's underwriting requirements for the loan, including but not limited to, and this is just a few examples, appraisal. Well, if the appraisal's short and you don't want to pay the difference, can you get out of the contract and get your earnest money back? Of course. And insurability, you know, I can't think of anything right now, but if the insurance doesn't work out and your payments are too high, you probably can get your, let's just say it was not in the floodplain, but then when you applied for the loan, all of a sudden FEMA says, well, it's in the floodplain now, so I mean, now your payments are higher, so that might be one example of insurability.
You might also have one where you have to replace the roof.
That's true too. That's going to be, I'm going to get to that in just a second. Lender required repairs. Well, lender required repairs, who's responsible for lender required repairs?
Negotiable.
Neither party. I've had it where I sold a house in Missouri City, and
So that means the lender?
huh? And the seller says, I don't have any money. He said it was about, I don't know, a couple of $2,000 or $3,000 worth of work to be done. So I told the buyer's agent, I said, she didn't have any money. She had to borrow the money to turn utilities on. So anyway, they said, well, they'll take care of it. So the buyer paid for lender required repairs, and they closed the deal. Okay, and this contract is subject to buyer being approved for financing described in attached third-party financing addendum for credit approval. Now, let me go over the third-party financing one more time. It says credit approval does not include approval for lender's underwriting requirements for the property as specified in paragraph 4A of the contract. In other words, by the way, has anyone had a problem when the buyer was denied the loan and went through and got the loan denial or rejection and prepared the termination agreement and also the release of earnest money to get the earnest money back, say, a couple of days prior to closing?
Oh,
Todd.
I was.
Yeah. What happened in your scenario or your situation?
Well, the seller, they came back and said, no, they weren't gonna refund the money because we were past the 21-day grace
Right.
period that we had. We
Right.
actually went to the very last day.
Right.
And we had to extend the contract. We still got denied on it. So I went back to the financing part on the contract, 4.1, which specifically states that you have to have lender's approval. So I went to the lender, made sure they gave me a letter stating that they could not approve it. And then I had to fill out the notice to buyer to terminate the contract using number 3 on there, which you have indicated in your packet there. And then filled out the form to release earnest money. But I had to have a discussion with the selling agent because he kept refusing it. But I just kept going back to where it specifically says lender requirements. And he's saying, well, you passed the financing. So, well, that's the time period for the financing, but the lender still won't approve it. And you have to go back and forth. They realize that they're going to have to give it back, and so they did.
Okay. Actually, too, the seller removed the cloud on title, so they're in a position to go ahead and remarket the property and go ahead and try to get it sold to someone else. Okay.
Wayne, as long as that money is still being held by the title company, there's still a cloud? So
Well,
in
you
other
hadn't got
words-
the release, as long as you don't have the release of earnest money signed, and the title company and the earnest money is there, that cloud stays for a while. Now, there's more to it. You know, on the last page of the contract, it states in there that the seller needs to notify the title company, the buyer needs to, and if one party doesn't notify the title company, then they'll release it within X number of days. You can see that on the back, it's probably 15 days to release it to the party who's requesting it.
Oh, really?
But you know, if either
But that's the
parties
last
don't
bit.
sign, the title company holds it for 2 years, I've had that.
Well, they could, because
And
both.
then they give it to the state.
State, right, because the
Oh,
buyer and the
yeah.
seller
That-
can't
that's
come
what
to
I
an
was getting
agreement.
at there.
Yeah,
Okay.
after 2 years, they release it to the
Right,
state.
well, right, but what happens if the seller wants to go at XYZ title company during those 2 years to try to sell his property? Will the title company issue clear title?
I've had it where we closed after 1 year. The money was with the title company for a year, and the buyers came back. They couldn't qualify that particular year, so the seller waited for those buyers for 1 year.
Okay,
We
wait a
closed it
minute,
the following
but what if it was another
Vice
buyer?
versa.
No, it was the same buyer.
I know, it's the same buyer, but if there's another buyer, they're gonna have to remove that cloud on the title. In other words, get a release of earnest money signed by all parties, including the realtors. Now, I've got a commercial deal, where they're having some problems on getting financing, in that release of earnest money, the title company prepared it and only requested the buyer and seller to sign, so it could be different in commercial deals. What do you think, Robert?
Everything's different.
That's true.
Yeah,
The only thing consistent
That's
is
a
the
short answer.
inconsistencies.
Well, good. Okay, yeah,
One thing you
okay.
have to be careful though, when I send over my release of money or to them, the seller turned around and sent another, because I sent it with the name of my buyer on it to get their money back. The seller didn't say anything to me, filled out another one with the seller's name on it, sent it to me to sign.
But with the money going to the buyer.
With the
To
money,
the
they sent the money
seller.
going to the seller.
Seller.
So they tried to pull a
Right.
quick one.
I know, I know,
God, it's so bad.
right, so
That's
you have
too
to be,
much.
Yeah.
you have
Call
to,
a counteroffer.
a counter offer to the earnest money, right, there
Put
you
your
go.
name on it, send it back.
Oh, well, anyway, you could have a lot of what ifs in that scenario, but I'm gonna go to the next little subject here. And thanks for your participation. My real estate agent got fined by MLS for entering financing details about my property. Why? How else would I get the financing details out to my buyers? Your agent was most promptly fined for placing information about financing in the physical property description public field instead of the agent remarks private, which is where financing information should have been listed. Buyers who are seeking special financing situations who have been communicating them to agents who represented them will be exposed to those details. Also, your agent most probably did not correct the listing in proper amount of given time by the MLS, and so was fined. And if your agent was the broker would have been fined. So in other words, here's the input sheet. So be careful of what you put into the private agent remarks, and also in the public remarks. So just be careful what you're doing here, and so because you could get fined.
I got a warning because I put the seller's disclosure in the wrong section.
Yeah, I got it that, when I was new,
They'll
yeah.
typically
Yeah.
warn you.
Yeah.
Right. They'll warn you, and then you change it, and then if you don't, then you get fined.
But I blamed it on you.
Right. One time I got, I think, fined or warning or something that I told them, I put in the closing date of, say, the end of June,
Yeah,
and it didn't close till the end of July.
yeah, I got
No,
Oh,
it.
you
so-
didn't change it?
Well, I just got distracted and didn't change it, and I was going to at the middle of July, and they said, "Hey, I thought you were closing here," and so they gave me a little warning
Yeah.
to change. So you might consider putting in, instead of on your closing on your contract, you might consider putting in maybe a few days after in case there's a delay of closing. I mean, y'all never have any delays on closing, do you?
All the time,
Absolutely not.
3 months on the last one.
Hey, Wayne, on the parts you're going over now, they put in, what kind of financing information would they put in that was incorrect?
Well-
I understand they put it in the public,
Right.
but what would you put as far as financing?
Oh, you might, of course, you probably can't do that, but there could be owner finance. But actually, you can put owner financing in the MLS. There's different boxes you can check for
Right.
FHA, VA, conventional cash. There might be something in there, a wraparound, or there might be something that's different that's not on the regular MLS boxes that you check. And so, I don't know. They didn't give an example. They just said that they weren't supposed to put that in public. Let's just say someone makes an offer on a house. Your client makes an offer and decides, I don't want that house. Well, is there a way to withdraw an offer for a client? My client has submitted an offer to purchase a home. We have not heard from the seller or his agent regarding the offer. My client has now found another home that he likes better and wants to withdraw the first offer. Does the Association of Realtors have a form that we use to withdraw an offer? No. The Texas Association of Realtors does not have that kind of form. Since your client wants to withdraw his offer before the seller has accepted it, prompt communication of that withdrawal is essential. Call the listing agent and tell her about your client's decision to withdraw his offer. Following the telephone call with a fax, letter, or email confirming your telephone notification of the time and date of your client's withdrawal of his offer. This kind of written confirmation of verbal offer withdrawal of the offer can help document the timelessness of the withdrawal said an issue developed concerning the seller's possible argument that he had already accepted the offer. It should be noted that the same procedure could be used by a listing agent where the seller wants to withdraw a counteroffer made to a buyer so that he can sell the property to another buyer. You know, there's a lot of times I've seen in the past, not a lot of times, but you might want to put a time frame if you're concerned about your offer. Put a time frame and special provisions that this contract becomes null and void if not accepted and deposited to the title company by a certain date. So, but I don't normally see that, but there is no form that you can use to cancel or withdraw your offer.
Okay, so let me ask this question, because this is something that I had happen to me, where I went out and because of the market we're in right now, I did 1 weekend 5 offers on 5 different homes, because we keep missing the opportunities.
Right.
We got accepted on 2 of the offers.
Right.
So based on that scenario, I should just send the email saying we're withdrawing the one,
According to this,
send him the earnest money?
The option money, he still deserves, he still earn the option money if he's got an acceptance. If you make 2 offers and accept both of them, you own both the option money.
Oh, really?
wait a minute, hold on, just for a second. Let's go back. Did you make an offer of, on the email?
No, I said the contract.
With the earnest money and option money?
I didn't send the money, I just did the contract.
Right, and you sent them just the contract?
Yes.
Okay.
No option money?
Well, it wasn't
Well,
accepted.
we had an
Until you are
we do have
accepted.
option money in it, but I have not collected the checks that one, because I was
Okay.
using the 3 days.
Okay, so you got an acceptance of the first offer that you made of A,
Yes,
and then you made an offer on B, and they accepted your offer on B, so now you got 2 sellers accepting your offer.
yes.
Okay, now which one did you decide to buy?
I went with B.
Okay, so the A, according to this, that you need to send them fax, email, or something that you're withdrawing the offer, because there's no addendum to withdraw that. Of course, there was no consideration, but, you know, I'm not a lawyer, so you didn't give them the option money and you didn't give them the earnest money.
But did he have to give them the option money?
I think they would say
I
that he
don't
still
think so.
owes option because the offer was accepted before he
It
approved
does,
Was
that
the
makes
contract
sense.
executed?
If they sent him back a signed contract saying that it's
Oh,
accepted.
was it signed, or was it verbal accepted?
It was signed.
It was
Both
signed?
of them came back signed.
I think they're
Yeah,
going
you
to
owe them
legally tell him
the-
you
yeah,
owe
you owe
buyer
them
owes
the
the
option.
option.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could
Because
be.
you were making them an offer based on
Makes
option
sense.
money and then did not terminate it when they accepted it, you're going, never mind, just kidding.
Okay, for the record, my name's Robert Wilson, Pepper Properties. .net.
That's why I signed this disclaimer here, no. Anyway, that's good discussion.
I'm sorry, but that's what we're gonna tell you.
Right, right,
It was an offer made and it was
Yeah.
accepted in good faith. That's
right.
what the option money is for, so you got a right to terminate.
Todd, your name is not Robert Wilson.
Okay, well,
Well, when I called him and told him that we're gonna have to withdraw that offer,
right,
that he
right,
had a change of mind,
right.
he just said, okay.
Okay, well, then going
That's
down the
all.
road.
If he
Yeah,
pushed
I'm
it-
just
Right.
wondering.
If he pushed it, he could get his option money.
Yeah,
Right, and
and I
so-
was thinking the
With
whole,
future
what's gonna happen if
Nope.
they both accept?
On that email, try to get that, try to tell them to respond in an email. I don't care, that's fine, or whatever. Try to do it in writing, because sometimes those emails are just as good as a contract.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just say you bought a brand new house and you're gonna rent out your existing house. We are buying a new home, we plan to keep our current house and rent it out to tenants. Will the homeowner's insurance policy we have on our current house cover us if anything goes wrong after the tenant moves in? No, you need to tell your insurance agents about your plans and arrange a new landlord policy, often called a rental dwelling insurance. A landlord's policy provides the same basic protection for that typical homeowner's plan does, but it usually costs about 25% more, in part because insurers are worried that your future tenant won't take care of your property as well as you do. So anyway, purchase a separate renter's insurance if you're going to lease out your existing home. How to secure your fee for FSBO? Well, FSBO is short for sale by owner. I represent a buyer interested in purchasing a property that is not listed with a broker. The buyer wants me to approach the seller and make an offer. He also wants me to seek my compensation from the seller. How can I secure payment for my compensation? Well, this is the agreement, and it's called registration agreement between broker and owner. It's 3 pages long. Just happen to have it right here. So it's TAR 2401 when you're dealing with FSBOs. Anyway, look at TAR 2401, registration agreement between broker and owner. This form allows the broker to register the buyer with the seller, and if the buyer purchases the property, the seller will pay the broker. If the seller refuses to enter into agreement under 2401 or a similar agreement, the broker should inform the buyer and seek further instructions. It may become necessary for the buyer to pay the broker directly. Sometimes in your, I don't know if you're paying attention, but in your buyer's representation agreement, you can quote the fee that you're supposed to get compensated for. They'd say is X percent in there.
Okay, now what if your client is the buyer and they said they would pay you?
You don't care, you get paid.
Did you get it in writing?
Well,
Do you still use,
you can put it in the contract.
You still use this form, I think is what she's asking.
Well,
still use this, or?
I would say no, because this is for the
This is
broker
for
and
the-
the
This
owner.
is for FSBOs, right?
this says owner.
For the FSBO
Yeah.
guy.
Right,
Okay.
so you might have to put in the contract that the buyer's paying you a fee.
Okay.
And,
'Cause I actually
because it's
do
not
have one.
listed, because, you know, usually when it's listed, it's got the other agent, it gets X percent. It's stated in MLS, and so, I would probably have to, I've seen realtors put it in special provisions, that you're getting paid by the buyer.
I actually did an amendment to a contract when I did that.
Okay, anyway, it's a good question. Next is FEMA maps on floodplain prone areas. I'm purchasing an expensive home in the Houston area. The MLS data said it was not in the flood prone area. The survey says it is. How do I know which is correct? FEMA maps are available online, as you understand it. If any of the portion of the properties in the flood prone area, the surveyor is supposed to report that is the flood prone, and the lender will require flood insurance. You know, that's an insurability. You know, sometimes buyers or sellers are not aware that their house is in the floodplain, and it changes from time to time. Anyway, FEMA changes these maps periodically, so it may change on this track, and a broker owner may not have known it. You always can object to the survey as a contingency and contract, and then have the right to look for another property. Didn't go in details, but I assume that if you have a survey as a contingency in the contract, then you have the right to look for another property. I assume you're going to terminate the contract and get your earnings money back, but it didn't say that.
Where's the website to find that stuff?
Probably have to go to FEMA. Yeah, FEMA.gov. Yeah.
I went and looked that up once, and that's very difficult to read that.
Right, well,
Can
if
you
you,
give me
if,
some tips on that?
right, well, the
It's-
best thing to do is most insurance agents have floodplain maps.
Oh, okay.
And they have
okay.
them all folded, and they can fold them out and look at
Okay.
them, or you can go on there. I mean, this was back in 1868, no, I was kidding. No, but they used to have these rolled out maps that showed exactly where the floodplains were in a 50-year and a 100-year floodplain.
Yeah, because I think it's FEMA.gov, but it's very difficult to read.
Go to the insurance agency.
Right,
Okay.
just, right,
Because
just,
I
right,
tried
just,
that, and I
right.
could, because the same
Right,
FSBO
right,
back here wanted
right,
to buy a lot,
right.
and it,
Right, and
I wanted to make
so
sure.
just go to the insurance agent, go to his insurance agent. Always keep the monkey off your back.
okay.
Say that you ought to contact your insurance agent. Try not to give him the information. Just say it's best for you to,
As
you
long
know,
as you got an address, they can look it up.
right.
Okay.
And now, if they don't have an address on vacant lot like you're saying, then give them the legal description, and they can still probably find it.
Well, I got somebody smarter than me to look at that.
There you go.
I figured it out.
There you go. Our mortgage loan credit union was sold to Fannie Mae. The credit union continued to act as a servicing agent, receiving the monthly payments, paying taxes, etc. The first part of last December, we paid off the mortgage. That's fantastic. That's what Dave Ramsey talks about. Free of debt, free of debt,
All day long.
all day long. The first part of last December, we paid off the mortgage and the credit union disavows any responsibility for getting our release of lien to us. What can we do to get the document from Fannie Mae? Did you send your promise? Did they send you your promissory note paid? Mark paid. This may be some of your help, but you'll have to search the real property records to see whom it was assigned. You may want to call Fannie Mae to see if they can help. There is a company called MERS that may have a record who holds it. Google everybody. The problem will not go away by itself. Someone needs to release the lien. In other words, when you pay off your house, make sure that release of lien is recorded. Because a lot of homeowners get the release of lien from the mortgage company, and they say, "Oh, I'll just stick it in the file." And you'll talk to them and say, "Oh, I paid my house off 5 or 10 years ago." Well, did you record the release of lien at the courthouse where your house is located? I don't know. Did you check to see if there's any recordation on the release of lien? I don't know. So, I mean, when you talk to owners and they say they paid a house off, make sure that they have the release of lien recorded in the courthouse where the house is located. Sometimes, you may have the lender in Houston, so they'll just record it in Harris County. Well, how about the houses in Fort Bend County? So make sure it's recorded in the right. Okay, and then that says the problem will not go away by itself. Someone needs to release the lien. You also may want to contact, here we go again, the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. I've covered that in the last couple of sessions, which is supposed to follow complaints on lenders.
Does this come out of the Houston Chronicle, like
Yep.
on what day? Sunday?
Sundays, right.
Sunday.
Every Sunday. Okay, one of the agents in the class always asked me to go over the Code of Ethics, so I'm getting closer and closer to the end. So I like to go over parts of the Code of Ethics from time to time, and then eventually we'll go through it. We're about 10% complete. The preamble to the Code of Ethics provides aspirational foundation. The principles in the preamble are high ideas towards which realtors should strive. By becoming a realtor, you make a personal commitment to abide by and uphold the Code of Ethics. The code protects the buying and selling public. It also protects realtors because living by the code results in higher professionalism and reduced legal liability. Preamble cannot be cited as a basis of disciplinary action because it is intentionally aspirational and describes subjective ideas, not measurable standards. The preamble, under all its land, these words clearly convey the immense and all-encompassing nature of real estate and the real estate profession. Land is the foundation of many aspects of society, both the basics of food and shelter and more sophisticated aspects of economy and prosperity. Truly, realtors deal in one of society's most important commodities. The preamble of a widely allocated ownership and widest distribution of land ownership speaks to a fundamental premise upon which our country was founded. The founders were wary of few persons accumulating vast quantities of land because in England land meant power. In their daily business, realtors support the fundamental idea that many persons owning small parcels of land is vital to the efficient functioning of our democracy. And many of the preamble's concepts focus on honesty, integrity, fairness, and moral conduct in business relations. Not only does the preamble use these exact words, other principles, including the call to maintain and improve the standards of their calling, and strive to become and remain informed on issues affecting real estate, define an emphasis to these ideas. And in the final paragraphs, the preamble quotes the Golden Rule. Realtors can take no safer guide than which has been handed down the centuries, embodied in the Golden Rule. Whatsoever ye would have that others should do to you, do ye even so to them. And this timeless admonition they remember throughout this course and throughout our real estate careers. Anyway, I just want to always go over the Code of Ethics because one of the agents requested that. I don't know what her name was, but I think her first initial starts with a P. So anyway.
90% of the whole class is about, what are you talking about?
There you go. You got any questions? Yeah. Go right ahead.
Okay, in your, I think it was your first article, did I miss you going over, it's the article about as Georgia agent required representation, that first one, did you go over that one? About agents getting fined $1,000?
They put it,
I've heard that an agent can be fined $1,000 for entering property listing.
right,
Agent does
Don't-
not have a representation agreement.
right, it's a listing agreement. It says representation
How can
agreement.
you list without?
Well, no,
Having anything?
sometimes, agents will,
You turn the computer on and enter it.
we're gonna end this session. Thank you very much. Thank you.